Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
I think for me, testament to a race, and I've always said it, is if during the event you are ready to hang, draw, and quarter the race director because you're up to your neck in water, and if I'm up to my neck in water, then my teammates are really in trouble. And then to be able to get to that finish line and go, thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you, Lars. That was an amazing experience. I suffered. I cried. I didn't sleep. I had the best time of my life. Thank you very much. And I think that for me is testament. I want racers to come to the end of our events and say, wow, that was amazing.
Well, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
Oh, how can you not be romantic about adventure racing?
It's a metaphor.
I know it's a metaphor.
Say the word, Chef.
Let it rip.
Here we go. Episode 136 of The Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. In the world of adventure racing, racers and racing and certain events live in rarefied air, and Expedition Africa has always been a strong adventure racing destination, from their hosting the World several years ago to the work of Heidi and Stephan Muller. Well, they've recently transferred ownership to a new organization, and we have those race directors on the podcast today to talk about their race, which is coming next year, 2026. But we want to get word out about it now for those who want to plan and make a trip to Africa to go enjoy it. As always, it will not disappoint. Great place to race, great race directors, a lot of wonderful things going on there. And so we're delighted to share the news of their work with the larger adventure racing community. As always, thank you for being a listener. You have a lot of ways to spend your time in today's world, and we are grateful that you spend it here on the Dark Zone. We will keep putting out the content and the podcast and the information, and we hope that you enjoy this podcast as much as we love adventure racing. So sit back and relax, enjoy this episode of the Dark Zone, and remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking. For over 40 years, the American Himalayan Foundation has been on the ground, partnering with visionary leaders across the region. They bring education to girls at risk of being trafficked. They fund surgeries for children with disabilities who would otherwise be left behind. They support Tibetan refugees, protect fragile mountain environments, and stand by communities through earthquakes, pandemics, and floods. The foundation doesn't do fanfare, they do results. Quietly, relentlessly, with grit, respect, and deep local trust. If you ever trekked, climbed, raced, or dreamed of the Himalaya, this is a way to give back to the people who call those mountains their home. www.himalayan-foundation.org. And as always with all of our charity partners, they pay nothing for this ad. Thank you for your support, and please visit their website. Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Adventure racing, big world, a lot to do. Some races, some race names, they live in legend. They're incredibly popular. People enjoy doing them. They come back to them year after year. On the show today, we have Expedition Africa. Now, if you're a regular adventure racer, if I said Expedition Africa for years, you would think about Heidi and Stephan Muller. That's no longer the case. They've transferred the control of the organization. They've transferred the race to a brand new team who are working on bringing Expedition Africa back, honoring the legacy of the previous editions, which are popular and legendary, and building their own image and their own culture around that race. So today we have on Damon DeBoer and Franco Olivier, and if I said his name wrong, he better correct me, onto the Dark Zone to talk about Expedition Africa. They're also racers themselves. If you've heard the name Truffle Hunter, that has been a race team name that has been attached to them. So Damon and Franco, welcome to the Dark Zone. Great having you here today. Damon, I'm going to kick it to you first. Talk to us a bit about your role now in Expedition Africa. How's that going for you?
Hi, Brian. Yeah, thanks for having us. That's a hard question because it's Expedition Africa has been such a big part of my life, Franco's life, I think so many adventure races around the world, that to take on this legacy, as you said there, I mean, this is a legendary race in adventure racing. It's huge. It's just still kind of pinch myself on a daily basis. And also because I'm doing it in a sense where because life has taken me away from South Africa and now living in the UK, it's kind of the opportunity to allow me to still connect home, and to the adventure racing community, and what means, a huge part of who I am. So for me, it's that key connection of what brings me home, keeps me connected to the people, and allows me to, give back to the sport. Adventure racing has given me so much. And I think, we as racers, as you mentioned, we are racers. We're now trying to be race directors, and we have a responsibility to give back to the sport now that we have that opportunity. So yeah, it's hard to kind of match the emotions of being a race director now and that of being the racer, but the fact of that we are now leading and running Expedition Africa is still a wow to me, and it's something that I, as I say, pinch myself to say, is this actually real? So, and to do it with my mate is huge. I mean, this is already a big thing, and I think you can't underestimate that.
Well, it's great, the idea that you recognize the size of what you're doing, the fact that you're a racer, transition race director, and you mentioned doing it alongside Franco. Always an interesting dynamic when two friends now work on putting a race together. Franco, talk to us a bit about Expedition Africa and how you see things.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for having us. I mean, I think it's an honor for us to be on here. As Damon mentioned earlier, we've made it now. We're on the podcast. For me, it's been an easier transition. About 2 years ago, I started organizing the 10 and 25 kilometer races for Stephan and Heidi because they were based in Cape St. Francis doing World Champs. They actually resided there for about 2 years, so they couldn't continue with the races on this side. So I started organizing the 10 and 25 Ks, and for us, that's more setting up the base, getting people into adventure racing. And then after that, I started doing a little bit more. There was talks about selling the business, talks about handing over. There were other people also interested, but for me, it's always been a dream to be on this side. I think Damon phoned me one day. He said, "Listen, I've got money. Let's do something." And that
sounds like a typical adventure race. Most adventure racers say yes before they hear the whole story, right? Yeah. It's like, I got an idea.
Absolutely.
I'm in. Well, let me give you the idea first.
And then, I think that conversation started there. And then Malusi Molewa, our other partner, also wanted to buy it. And then he realized that he can't do it on his own. And my condition was always, I'll only do it if Damon joins me. I'm not doing it on my own. And unfortunately, in our relationship, I'm the beauty and he's the brains. So I sit on this side. I just do the pretty things and he tells me what to do. And then, with Malusi, he came in. So it's a 50-50 partnership, and we've decided to take this on. With me more hands-on on the ground, running the business, and with Damon and Malusi more on the side, behind the scenes, telling me what to do when it comes to the big ones. That's always good fun. And the problem comes when I get a message at 10 o'clock at night, because Damon is 2 hours behind me. It's my sleep time, and he's still awake looking at maps. And he says, "I've got an idea." I wake up the next morning with cold sweats because I know what he's going to come up with. And then when you look at them, it's actually crazy. And when you look at the maps, like, okay, that can work. And he's like, okay, I need to go test that out. I don't know what there is, but go test it out. But for us, it's putting up a race or organization that people fall in love with the sport. As Damon mentioned earlier, like, adventure racing is a lifestyle. It's something to give back to. It's something that becomes part of you. And for us now, I've been racing for about 12 years, Damon a little bit longer. And it's weird being on the other side. 2 weekends ago, I raced my own 60-kilometer race. Someone else organized it for me. I had a little bit of a peek of the maps beforehand, but we were very unofficial. I was helping a team practice navigating. It was actually quite nice racing because I haven't done a race since France last year. When did we race last?
Yeah, July, France last year.
And then this year we're doing two big ones, which is quite exciting. But that's where it kind of the racing stops for me and the organizing starts, because it's they said, let's buy Expedition Africa, it's going to be fun. And then 3 months later, like, oh my gosh, I don't have a weekend free. Always out in the mountains. I was always in front of the computer looking at the maps. But for us, it's actually amazing because we get to give back, as Damon said. Doing it with him I wouldn't do it with anyone else. We haven't had a fight yet. We always compromise.
It's also still early in the podcast, so give it some time.
I don't know. He says we haven't had a fight yet. We have one fight every race. We then go. He goes to the front, so I go to the back, or vice versa. We ignore each other for. It could be an hour, it could be half a day, and then we have a cuddle, and it's all over. So we're due a fight. So
I think it's the. As I talk to adventure racers and I talk to people involved in the sport, I think the one trajectory that really helps putting on a good race is being a racer yourself, right? Because you live inside, as a racer, you live inside that universe of seeing the maps as a racer, the transition areas, the checkpoints, and the experience. And there's no doubt that your experience as racers informs your behavior as race directors, right? Those two things work hand in hand. Yeah. And the trajectory of going from racer to race director is very common. You see it build because you work in community. You tend to grow beyond the sport. I know a lot of people who they love adventure racing, but eventually they've had their fill of the big races and they want to try something else. We're challenge-oriented people. And so clearly you both took on the challenge of Expedition Africa and doing all of that in your partnership and having your third partner and all of that built in there. Before we get into Expedition Africa itself, I'm really curious about your individual racing careers. You mentioned years, big races. You said you did 2 races last year. You mentioned France. So, Damon, let me kick it back over to you a little bit and give us an understanding of your racing itself. What are some of the big races you've done? What have you learned? Like, walk us through who you are as an adventure racer.
So I've been racing since, I think, about 2004, 2005. I played quite high-level field hockey at school. And then when I finished school, I blew my knee out. And I was kind of then sat on the couch with a dodgy knee, and I saw, it was one of these Gillette World Sports, whatever it was. And I can't remember which race it was, but they were going up, they're going up Mont Blanc, and they got to the top, and these guys were it was windy and howling, and it was just a mess. And somebody said to them, are you having fun? And they said, yes, where else would I rather be? And it was just like, that was what I want to do. So, suddenly ignore the rest, throw the rest out. This is it. I'm doing adventure racing. And so I started about 2004. Adventure racing in South Africa was not too big at that stage. There were quite a few, there were a couple of races going on. I was fortunate that in the Western Cape and Cape Town, there was a very good series there, led by an adventure racing hero in South Africa, Eugene Nell. That got me into it. And then, I've muddled my way around. We didn't have that many expedition races around then. I did my first big race in 2008, which was the Bull of Africa. And then life got in the way. You suddenly get a career, you got to focus on that and do bits and pieces. So I did the odd smaller race and bits and pieces between there and then. And then got back into it in 2016 when I did Expedition Africa Garden Route. And it was just, wow, overnight again, it was, I'm back home. This is where I belong. And, you talk about who I am as a racer and what I feel. There was, in that race, we hadn't raced for years. I was with new racers and that. But we got to the point where we, on the last bike leg, and if we went left, we would be home that night. We would have had, that was it. We short coursed ourselves, and that was it. If we went right, we got 2 more nights out here. And there wasn't even a question. It was just, we just rode right. And it was that kind of that thing of, why would I go home now? I'm out here. And that's testament to kind of, who I like try and live my life as and what I do in adventure racing. And I think that going beyond that, I've had the opportunity to then race all over the world. I've raced in Ireland, Itera 2016, which I think for many was quite a wet race. It started raining at the start and finished raining at the finish, and the sun came out. I got to race in Reunion. I mean, that was an epic World Champs. It's and seeing some of those teams there. Been back to France again, raced in the UK. And I've done every single expedition in Africa up until Namibia, unfortunately, because life threw in. That's how it is. So I kept going back. I'd go back to Expedition Africa every single day if I could when I had the opportunity. So I've had that chance to race kind of in Africa and in all over the world. And it's given me a lot of insight into who I am as a person. And I think it set the tone of, life is about not giving up. It's about, you get a problem in the way. Okay, let's just deal with it. And I think that's kind of adventure racing has formed a lot of who I am as in my personal life and my professional life. I've also been very lucky, in adventure racing. I've come across what I call now my family. Adventure racing, the team is the core, and I'm a traditionalist in that. Adventure racing is a 4-person team. It's a mixed team, and that. But Franco and I started racing by chance because his team got injured. We met each other on the race. That was I don't know how many years ago, 7 years ago. We've raced together every single 2017. Yeah, we've raced together every single year since then. I think sometimes we talk to each other more than we talk to our wives. So,
I'll second that.
But it's become our family. It's become a family, and and I think that's such a key part, and we need to keep giving that experience to other people.
Well, clearly, what happened was that you saw something that was appealing to you. You did the thing, and the appeal has only grown over time. I just want to confirm what you just said. Am I correct that you and Franco, it was in a race itself where there was their team kind of fell apart and you bonded together in an actual race experience?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. We basically, one of our teammates fell out. His team fell out, and he knew my
entire
teammate.
Team fell out.
Yeah, his entire team. And he said, "Oh, can I join you?" And it was in the Namakwaland race in, as you said, it was 2017, maybe it's 2018, Frank. Anyway, it was the leg that everyone was talking about. You're trekking up the Kubi Canyon. There's no water. You've got to carry like 6 liters of water with you. Stephan's been telling us for days this is going to be crazy. It hasn't rained there in years. Of course, it rained. That's synonymous with Expedition Africa. It brings rain to the places. And it's funny because we were crawling through these bushes on our hands and knees, truffle hunting through the bushes, and that's where the name came from. And kind of that's how we met, where the name the Truffle Hunters came from, and I'd say the rest is history. It's a really special experience.
It's an interesting psychological event when people meet under those conditions, how quickly they bond to each other. Because I have friends today, people I'm super close with, who, if it wasn't for some sort of a weird occurrence during a race, someone gets sick, or they get lost, they come back to us, we bond together, that really forges that bond. And clearly you and Franco have that bond came across there. Yeah. Franco, what do you think?
Yeah, but before we carry on, I think Piers will never forgive us if we don't mention his name, but Piers Perot we always joke with him. It's like saying he's my granddad. I think he's like 60 something now and he's still racing, but he was the one that while we were be cross with you
because he's not in his 60s yet. He's only in his 50s, please.
As a guy in his 50s, I will take umbrage on his behalf, for the record.
Yeah, good man.
But as we were crawling, like he was the one. He's a very scientific mind, and for me, we were just bushwhacking, and he was like, "Guys, are we hunting for truffles here?" And I think that's how the name just stuck over the years. And I mean, since then, Piers and I have also, I think, at least done a race every year together. But for me, my adventure racing career wasn't as glamorous as Damon's was. Mine was, I studied sports science, and my wife came to me and was like, "You study sport, right? You fit? Like, it's relative. I mean, just because you study something doesn't mean that those skills are transferred into the body. And my brother-in-law actually took me on my first adventure race, and we did a full moon. So it's a typical 120 kilometer race. So in South Africa, it's more kilometers and not hours. So those races are typically between 12 and 24. And I think we got to hour 20 and we've only done like half the race. We got so lost. Afterwards, I had so many blisters on my feet. Looking at photos now, it's always interesting. I was in tennis tackies. I had a tennis cap on. I had sweatbands on my wrists. Like, I looked like such an idiot. But that's how I started. And since then, my work actually allowed me to train a bit more. So I don't have a traditional job where I'm a hockey coach. I only work in the afternoon. So I had time to train in the mornings, and then met up with an old friend, Dave Barkhuizen, where he said, let's start racing. We were very similar in age, similar in fitness, and we raced together for a few years. And then realized, geez, this is actually fun. I enjoy suffering personally. So for me, the tougher it is, the better. Because I know the person next to me, or rather the team next to me, is suffering just as much. And it's just who can take it a bit more. And then I did my first Expedition Africa in Swaziland, and that was 2015. And then, as Damon said, we've done every single one since then. I was lucky enough to have done 8. I do blame COVID for not doing 10. Heidi and Stephan always said, if you get to 10, you get it. Your 10th one is for free. And unfortunately, I couldn't get that because of COVID. So I wonder if I will race my own 10th one, whenever that might be. So instead of me organizing, I'll let Damon take the lead, and I won't pay. I'll take a free entry for that. But we've been lucky. We've been lucky enough that Damon, since he came into my life, that I could also race overseas. So I've also done a few bigger races. He convinced me to do Raid in France last year, and it was rough. And next year apparently, but it was rough. It's not the way we used to. And I think we got told beforehand, guys, you're most probably not going to finish this race. And we proved everyone wrong. I think we came in 11th and made the cutoff. It was actually such a fun race because it was so tough.
That was the last edition they just had.
That
was a hard race.
And I've never packcraft in my life. I've never carried the packcraft, and I was, or am still, unfortunately, the smallest person in the team. And so it's actually funny. Simon and myself, we had to carry the packcrafts, but we had to let Damon and his brain free so he can navigate and take us on the right roads. There were so many there. But navigation was tough. The transitions were tough. The course was tough. But as Damon said earlier, like, that's what we like. So either you do or you don't. Some people will never go back to a race like that. We quite enjoyed it.
Well, it sounds like the two of you, when you get your fill of it, right? You really enjoy. There's a lot to it that you really enjoy, right? And one thing that's really clear is that you really enjoy the fact that there's teamwork, there's challenge, there's suffering, and right, sometimes fun isn't fun. All those kinds of things, right? And you build all those things in your experience, and you keep coming back for more, because as hard as it may be, you still really enjoy doing it. And therefore, you've now taken that experience, and now you're bringing it into your race directing. So before we get in the race directing, I am curious, though, respectively, individually, what was the biggest thing that you had to grow as racers? What was the deficit that you had in the beginning that you had to improve over time?
Sure. Mine is patience. I can honestly say that. If anything, mine is patience. I think about 10 years ago, it was going into transition, waiting for people. It was a frustration, and I visibly made it a frustration so that everyone could see, and it affected my teams. And I'm at a point now where I can admit that. I think at my tender age of, so what am I turning, 36 this year, I've learned a lot. And I'm not impatient anymore. Maybe a little bit. People argue that. But for me, that is the biggest thing that I had to overcome. I can deal with a lot, but people wasting time, it becomes a frustration. And I had to say, okay, someone is struggling in transition, someone is wasting time. How can I make that easier? So then I took it upon myself to just grab your backpack, go fill this, go get something to eat, make you 10 cups of coffee while you're ready. So instead of me standing there, I keep myself busy by making a cup of coffee, making
you're
tea,
you're not using the energy
food.
of staring at them angrily to make them move faster. You're saying, hey, listen, you're struggling here. What can I do for you? Here's your kit. Here's your bag. Here's your box. Here's your food. Mm-hmm. And so you help close the gap for them in what they're doing. That's really good advice. That's good advice for a team.
Everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses within a team. And my strength is transition time. I move quickly. Other people's is strength in the race, carrying a backpack, always having the nicest snacks. Our ladies always have the nicest snacks. That is their strength. And that's the big thing. You have to start
until they've eaten them all, and you're standing on the side of the mountain with a packet of cheddars and one cheese and 4 pieces of biltong. Because anyway, that's another story. So
it isn't a race until you run out of food. Keep that in mind. Yes. And it's a race.
Well, until you do it twice in the same race, then you start to question yourself. So
David, how about you? Where'd you grow up?
Brian, to be honest, without sounding arrogant, I don't think I've changed. No. I don't think I've changed who I am. I've always been quite analytical sporting-wise and focused on kind of, you need to hit these certain targets and training and all of that. And my navigation, I say, has improved. All of the standard things, basic improvement. I think the key thing I've learned, and probably I'd say more thanks to Franco, is not to procrastinate. Sometimes I do enjoy coming to a transition and just turning my bag over and emptying it on the ground to see how far it all goes, just to see how much I can push Franco. But as he mentioned, he's so fast in transition. He makes decisions. He doesn't question himself. Whereas we can all come in and you will sit in that transition, you look at your foot, and an hour later, you're still looking at your foot. Franco doesn't do that. And I think, his ability to come in and push a transition has been a very important lesson for me, and I've tried to learn from that to avoid procrastination. And I see it carrying over into my own life, and being a race director now and pushing things is actually, if you say you're going to do something, just do it. Because actually, if you haven't done it, Franco's going to give me grief to saying, have you not done that yet? I know there's something he asked me to do 2 weeks ago. I haven't done it yet. It's at the back of my head going, Damon, do this. So I don't think I've changed much as a racer, as in the way I race. I think it's racing with the team I have and what we can do with him. I've always been a leader. I've always liked to come in and lead my team and run the team and push the team and do that. But definitely, I think the idea of not procrastinating, taking things and doing it when it comes to, and that will all go down to what I've learned from my team, and specifically Franco.
The idea of being efficient in movement, right? That there's a fine line between moving too quickly where you make a mistake and moving too slowly where you slow the team down. I think that the data point I always hear a lot is that if it's a 12-hour race, and if you waste 5 minutes each hour, you've now given back an hour of race time.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very, very common when you see it that way. I know for myself too, like the transitions for me were very often my kryptonite, and my teammate Shelly from Faroe Islands noticed this, and she pointed this out to me, and I grew from it. That I found for myself too, that I enjoy people, and I would be re-energized by socializing in TAs. It would be good to see other people. Also gave me a bit of a break from my team, right? Because you're with each other all the time. Talking to another person kind of, it helps reset your perspective. But there was a point where it was getting in the way of the team moving efficiently, right? And so we had to kind of negotiate that out a little bit. And I learned a lot from her pointing it out to me. Was an important thing for me to pick up on. So you're right. And I think that adventure racing at its very, very core, if it's done right, is a sport in which people who are racers have a chance to assess and consider the choices that they're making during the race and whether or not they're helping the team and they're moving the team forward, and then being willing to make that adjustment to yourself, right? To look at yourself honestly. And you'll probably have noticed this too in TA. Sometimes teams just fall apart. They're just at each other. And so what advice would the two of you give to, you mentioned the transitions and moving quickly. If a newer team was listening to this podcast, what would you recommend that they should focus on for their own growth as they continue to grow together?
So what we've always tried to do is, the key one is working together. As soon as you start fighting against each other, you're done. That's done. You've all got the strengths in the team. Use those strengths, but when your strength is failing, ask for help. I think that's a key one. Frank, I'm the navigator in the team. I navigate 90% of the race. Franco's an excellent navigator. I think sometimes he's a better navigator than me, but it's not something he enjoys doing. I love the navigation. It's my strength, but I will get to a point where I go, I actually cannot do this anymore. I need a break. And it's then to say, okay, my strength is failing me. I need to ask for help. And it's that ability to ask for help. It's the same thing, we've all mentioned it. You've heard all of your previous guests and previous people who've said, there are four of you. If your pack is too heavy and you're slow, you share your load. You put somebody on tow. It's that ability to say, I need help. And I think that's the key one for all the new adventure races. Ask for help when you need help. Don't let your pride get in the way. I think there's always going to be things, be faster in transition, pre-plan before you get into transition. This is what we're going to do, da-da-da-da-da. Those are all details, but ask for help. I think that's always the key one for me.
Franco, would you add to that?
Yeah. I would disagree a little bit with Damon on the preparation. For me, just preparation before a race, just having everything. We always speak about getting to the race is the most difficult part. So take your time when compulsory gear lists come out. So make notes. So be packed 2 weeks before. You're most probably not going to use your gear 2 weeks before. So just prepare for a race. When the logistical book comes out, already have your packets ready with everything in. So and for me, again, that's one of my strengths. So when I get to the race, I dump it into the box and I go sit and either have a beer or a coffee, and these oaks are still faffing for 3 days afterwards.
Right. So clearly you realize that by going into the race prepared, you're more relaxed, you're more calm, you're good to go. So it's actually 100%. Being prepared is not just about efficiency, but it's about creating yourself where mentally you could just be calm and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes. And then for me, if not more important than the first one, is just race with like-minded people. As Damon mentioned earlier, we've got a truffle hunters group, and there's about, I think, 15 people on it that has raced with the team. And we still have fries or barbecues, the way you guys would say it, at least 2-3 times a year. If it's someone's birthday, we will go. We chat constantly on that group because it's family. So whether it's a teammate that was slower previously and we decide, okay, let's bring that person in, we're going to have a fun race, we still enjoy it, because you do need to spend, especially in the long ones, you need to spend a good few days out there with someone. And I always have a measuring stick where I tell one of my jokes, and it's not always one of the cleanest jokes, but if you laugh at my joke, then I can race with you. If you don't, it's going to be a long 4 days.
So it's a bit of a test there, right? It's a bit of a personality test to see if you can race with them or not.
In the training beforehand, yes, yeah. So there's always the one joke that I keep for a test. But that's the thing, and as Damon mentioned many times, it's family. So you need to actually be friends with this person. When you go out on a training session or hike, there shouldn't be a quiet moment. You should be talking. You should be, and I always have questions for people, like hypotheticals, because it's always fun. Like, what would you do in this situation? And you need to know that person better than sometimes yourself, because you need to know when they do start struggling, what can you do? I've got teammates that they absolutely hate it when you say, come on, you can do it, we're almost there, like, I believe in you, and others that thrive on that. So you need to know this. But if you can talk to each other, it becomes so boring. And I don't know if you know this, but Damon Wood, I do not shut up during a race.
No, he doesn't shut up at the best of times, Brian. Yeah. No,
so
as you say,
you start worrying.
You start worrying, yeah. Yeah.
But that's my two things: preparation and mates. It's very important.
So what's clear about this is the idea that you, as I said earlier, the racers you are the race directors that you will become, right? And so now as you shift your focus to Expedition Africa and you take the balance of your experience, both as what you've seen in other races in terms of route planning, in terms of logistics, what you've seen yourself as a team, you're now bringing all of that forward into your race directing, right? And we never arrive anywhere by itself. It's always the collection of all of our past experiences. So in your conversations about Expedition Africa, and we've talked about the size of the race and the enormity, and talk to us a bit about what you're planning for next year. Well, first things first, before we get into that, for the listener, give us the logistics, dates, times, places, Where do you fly into? Where do you fly out of? How long is the race? Like, what is the whole, paint the picture of the race for us.
Cool. So Expedition Africa 2026 is going to be in South Africa, obviously. It's going to be in a region known as the Drakensberg, which is a very famous mountain range about 3-4 hours south of Johannesburg. It's on the edge of the Lesotho escarpment, which I think many racers will remember. Expedition Africa went to Lesotho in 2022. Expedition Africa was there in 2013. So the title of our race is actually it's called Back to the Berg. So we literally we're going back to the Berg. I mean, we are revisiting a previous race location, but not the same area. Different places, different routes, different challenges. The event is from 13 to 22 March 2026, and teams can fly into Johannesburg, to Oliver Tambo Airport, and International Airport in Johannesburg. It ends on the 22nd when teams go back, and the event ends. Currently, we will start the event. Planned start is the 15th, with first teams finishing in 3 to 4 days, and the last teams finishing the Friday night, which is the 20th. And then party on the 22nd, on the 21st, and then home on the 22nd. For internationals, it's fairly straightforward. You can fly directly from most European centres. You can fly indirect from kind of Qatar, Doha. Doha, Dubai, all of those places. And we are arranging all your transport from the airport to the resort. The resort is working with us, called Alpine Heath Resort. Beautiful chalets, self-catering, great spot, pools, warm, sunshine. So for the Northern Hemisphere people, it's in March. It'll be a nice chance to escape the cold and misery and have some sunshine before spring and that really hits in the north.
I know that Merrill has been a longtime sponsor of adventure racing in South Africa. What kind of role are they playing this year with the race?
Yeah, Brian, thanks. Merrill, we've been lucky enough that Merrill is our title sponsor for 2025. They've come on board with a financial contribution to our expenses for this year. Putting up races, it is difficult. And without sponsorships, without partnerships, and that's how we see it. It's more of a partnership than a sponsorship, because we'd like to give back to them as much as they like to give to us. For us, if we can get the youngsters into the brand, into the shoe from a young age, and that's what we can give them, because our races starts at 10 kilometers. We've got 6-year-olds doing it. And Merrill has now brought actually a range for kids out, which hasn't been in the past. So for us, it's such a life-changing contribution, because we can now give more to the races. We can lower some of our expenses. We can give more at the races itself. So it's great. And Merrill makes our life easier. That's the easiest way to put it. And not just from the sponsorship point of view, but from the shoe point of view as well. I've been trekking in their shoes for the past 3 years since World Champs. I haven't put on another shoe. They actually have quite stylish things out these days. So for us, without partnerships, races won't be possible. And it's difficult, because you need to find someone that shares that love for the sport. Adventure racing is not big. It's, as we mentioned earlier, it's a small group of people that is doing it. So you need to find someone that shares that love, that shares the experiences, that enjoys the sport as much as we do, for them to be able to see the difference that they can make in our organization.
Yeah. For the race itself, you mentioned, what's the total distance? I might have already said that before. Is it 500K?
We are still arguing about the distance.
Yeah.
Stay tuned on the distance.
Yeah, somewhere between 450 and 550, depending on your navigation skills. But no.
Well, I can make it 600K, so don't worry, we'll figure that out.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Well,
yeah, you can.
Most people will recommend Stephan's 600 Ks from World Champs in 2023, which turned out to be closer to 1,000 kilometers. So we found that, if you use a piece of string instead of a ruler, you get the distances more accurate. So
yeah, and you're a year away from the race, right? So you're still nailing down a lot of the court. There's a lot to go on, so that's there. I'm assuming that we're looking at the three primary disciplines will be activated, right? There'll be paddling, there'll be cycling, and there'll be trekking. Right.
Yep.
Have you announced any additional skill sets that are expected, or is that still to be determined?
Thanks.
Yeah. So I don't know if everyone has seen our promo video, but there will be a via ferrata in the race.
I will link the promo video is excellent. I will link it in the show notes.
Awesome.
People should go check it out. It was a really nice job on that.
So, and again, we spoke earlier about previous races, what other race directors have made us do in certain scenarios. And there's still a discussion whether that should be a dark zone or not. And I keep sending Damon videos of what we've done in the past and what other race directors are doing and making people go down a canyon in a waterfall at night while it's raining. So this Via Ferrata is very special. A few of our friends actually put it up. It's about 1,000-meter drop when you on the edge of it. And you're actually climbing to the top of the Drakensberg.
Up to the city, yeah.
So we were in Scotland for Itera. We did a nighttime Via Ferrata, which was you showed up. We came over Ben Nevis and we came down and we got into this, and we could have slept or we could have done the Via Ferrata. We did the Via Ferrata, and you had no idea the size of it, right? All you really know is you know the distance of your headlamp.
Yeah.
Right.
I would recommend teams sleeping there or at the transition just for the view. I mean, if anything, I've done it a few times now. I will go do it at night just to say that it's doable, and then I'm still alive afterwards. But at the end of the day, that is our drawing blast or our drawing card for people to come. It hasn't been done by many people. I can say that if you do this, you probably won't go do it again, especially for the international guys. If you think by listening to this, all South African races would know where that is. But believe me, you will not think of a way to get there. You think, they're going to make us go and go there. It's going to be an interesting route. That final trek leg is going to be brilliant. We spoke earlier about it's still a year out. Our two big treks are done. So I've done them. Where Damon sat behind the computer, it's like, go there. And then I went there and I was like, I can't go there. But much of the route is on paper is done. We're trying to get our permissions and everything in place before the end of the year. We don't want to sit with issues closer to the time. So we're busy in conversation with local authorities, with the nature reserves, with all the powers that be that we can actually have a smooth running race.
It's amazing for all the challenges we have in this world. Overwhelmingly, race directors point to permitting and permissions as the hardest thing to do. Everywhere. Like it is the most common feedback form that we get from race directors is just getting everyone to say yes to it is really, really hard. Yeah.
But I listened to your I think it's the Ozarks one now, where they just said, there's 1.2 million hectares, go have fun. Like, I want that. That'll be much easier.
I just leave us alone. Give us a big map and off we go.
Yeah. Can I go? Yeah. Can I go? Yeah. Like, do what you want.
Just keep saying yes. Well, it's amazing too. I mean, and permitting is getting harder here in the United States because we're having such tumult inside of our federal government, right? And we don't know who's in charge of permitting anymore. There's a whole dynamic around that race directors are kind of prepping themselves for. And I find one of the hardest things to do is to explain to a non-adventure racer who has permitting power what an adventure race is, because they have no idea of what you're asking them to do. And they realize that our impact on the environment is so light. Like, just let us pass through and call it a day. But there's so many things that get in the way.
Yeah.
And I think it's people that don't understand adventure racing. Sorry, David. When I'm going to, because we've got 13 races this year that I need to organize, and every time you go to a new venue, you try to explain to the people what you're trying to do, and they just cannot fathom the idea of, we're just going, and sometimes you need a life jacket, other times you don't need a life jacket, and then like where the marshal's going to be. how many marshals are going to be out there? Where are you going to put your medics? It's like there'll be a medic at the end, a marshal at the end. They've got a cell phone. What if they fall? They carry the bike home. What if they can't walk? They phone us and they still carry the bike home.
Yeah, I think the way in which race directors and racers view risk and the things that we're willing to do in relation to how entities and government and private, they see risk are two separate things. And connecting those two things is really hard for race directors because adventure racing is an inherently risky sport. And so you have to, and as a race director, you have to kind of find that line. You mentioned the Via Ferrata and the dark zone, right? Would you dark zone that or not? Would you put people in the water or not? And it's always an interesting conversation with race directors where they kind of draw that line and what risk looks like. And some race directors are all over the place on it, right? Some are high risk, go get them, you'll figure it out. Some are very, very low risk, we're going to be a lot more cautious. Getting that sweet spot is so hard for race directors.
But I think for Damon and myself, it's actually quite easy because, sorry, Damon, I keep speaking over you.
No worries. It's okay. I'm used to it.
With our experience and Stephan, and I think I have to give credit to Stephan here, is that when I took over from him, my first question is like, where the hell do I start? Like, okay, you're doing the small races now, go. It's like, okay, with what? Like, what do the maps look like? Who do I ask for permission? What does the book look like? Do I send an email? Like, must I do all of this? But he always taught me that do something that you enjoy. So that was his motto as well. Like, he will only put something in a race that is enjoyable.
Yeah,
yes,
he would go do himself.
Yes. And that's why personally for me, I will do our entire course probably 2 or 3 times, just to make sure that the tough doesn't outweigh or the horrible doesn't outweigh the enjoyment.
Yeah,
it's fun to suffer for 4 hours, okay, but when it goes for a day of the same thing over and over, it does become not fun anymore. It becomes unbearable, and you think, will I come back to this race?
I think for me, testament to a race, and I've always said it, is if during the event you are ready to hang, draw, and quarter the race director because you're up to your neck in water. And if I'm up to my neck in water, then my teammates are really in trouble. And then to be able to get to that finish line and go, thank you, Stephan. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you, Lars. That was an amazing experience. I suffered. I cried. I didn't sleep. I had the best time of my life. Thank you very much. And I think that for me is testament. I want racers to come to the end of our events and say, wow, that was amazing. I hurt. I had a great time. I can't wait to be back. And I think, this event, our event, is going back to a location that neither of us got to race. So in a sense, it's quite nice for us to go and do a race in somewhere that we look back at the race. We would have loved to have done it, but we didn't get that chance. It's also an area that I know familiar. I'm very familiar with the area. It's where I lived for a long time. So remote route design or race directing is quite fun because it makes me feel like I'm at home. And as Franco says, every day he gets a new route, a new location, a new place to get permissions. I mostly put that down to my daughter because she and I spend a lot of time looking at the maps, and she says, oh, I like that route. And then I say, Franco, let's go there because my daughter says that's a good idea. But I think it's really, really important that, people realize that events like this are much more than, people putting on an event to make money. Yes, we need to cover our costs. Yes, we do need to make some money. Otherwise, we can't keep putting it on. But it's an investment of who we are. We put our heart and souls in there, our families in there, and our passion. And we want to show people these amazing, beautiful areas. The Via Ferrata for me is a very important part. And that's actually what probably took us to the race, because that Via Ferrata has been built by husband and the family of one of the Adventure Racing Hall of Fame, Shelley Plum, who's in South African Adventure Racer Hall of Fame. Her husband built that Via Ferrata. So it's the Adventure Racing family again. It's taking us back to a place to share something that the family's built. Let's bring more people there. So sorry, I'll keep quiet. I get excited.
But you're right about that. I think the ongoing appeal and what you're talking about is the idea that there's this transference of competition and community and enjoyment, right? And sometimes those circles all sort of come together. And race directors that get that understand that a race director, they're very, very successful races that they put on themselves. And to your point too, there's also there's a lack of inherent appeal when a race director, and this happens in races from time to time, where the race almost feels like mean. Like, I'm going to put this person through a meat grinder just to put them through a meat grinder because we say we did it to them. And that doesn't really gel well with adventure races. Like adventure races will happily suffer for a race, but they know when the suffering is very gratuitous and it's just like, this is just dumb that we're out here doing it. That being said, halfway through a race, wanting to throttle the race director is a completely common feeling that all of us kind of have. And when you cross the finish line, it's all over, right? So there is that part of it there.
I mean, Brian,
for me, it's
my turn, Franco. So I'm talking. Also in that sense, people vote with their feet, as you said. We could put on a race next year that is awful. That people that we're never coming back. There are so many events now to choose from. So, I mean, putting on the racing hat, jeepers, it's the best time in the world. I've got events all over the world I can go to. It's a golden age. Putting the race director's hat, it's hard, it's concerning. But it's also a challenge to us to say, guys, you need to put on events that matter. You are events that people are interested in coming back to. And that's the challenge. So it's a golden age, as you say. It's great for races. It's great for race directors. We've got to come up with new ideas. That's where we are.
It's we just had the race in New Zealand, right? New Zealand just had Chris Dixon have a legend, and now they're down in Chile racing this week, and another race goes there. Like there's a lot going on there. There was a logistical question that I forgot to ask. I do want to come back to for those who are interested in racing. Southern Hemisphere in March. What is the climate usually like? Is it dry? Is it warm? Is it hot? Is it cold? Like what kind of conditions will the racer roughly expect? Understanding that predicting the weather is a fool's errand, but I feel I'd give it a shot. What's it like climate wise, and what's it like terrain wise?
So weather wise, in the mountains, you'll have 4 seasons in a day. You can have, and I know many people say it. I mean, it can rain, it can snow. There shouldn't be snow in March. I mean, if it does, it's a freak of nature. Right. So where I was on the weekend, it was 3 great days. And then on the 4th day, we had a 100 millimeters in 2 hours. It was just a downpour. It lasted hour and a half, and then you're good to go again. So that's the nice thing about that time of the year. We are still, so I went last week. It's still 3 weeks before the actual race would take place. There shouldn't be big storms. And I say shouldn't be. We're going into the winter season where it doesn't rain as much. So that's why we chose that date. It's a middle ground between the very hot of January, February, March to the very cold of March, April, June.
Right.
So weather-wise, expect warm days. I think it hit 30 degrees when I was out there. Night times 13, 14 degrees when we started. So that's still warm. Well, barring you moving.
Right.
But weather-wise, I think it's a perfect time. It'll be green from rains before you won't feel, you'll feel like you're in heaven. And I think this route is going to be absolutely spectacular. We've got some surprises for them. Secret location start, maybe not. We don't know where we're ending. Maybe not.
Right, you're ending somewhere.
Somewhere. We'll get you back to the airport. That's all that matters.
Yes.
So time.
Right.
So.
But we want to try and make this race as easy as possible for anyone coming. So even the local South Africans, if they need a lift to the start, they don't want to take a car, get on the bus. So we'll provide 2 days of transport from the airport. We'll get your bike boxes there. We'll take you to the local shop. So there is a shop at the resort, but if you want to go to the closest town, which is Bergville, we'll shuttle you there. You can go buy your snacks.
Yeah, to your point before, you mentioned the preparations before for races, and you mentioned how packing your bag meant a lot 2 weeks in. I think for teams that are considering races to go, we had this in Ecuador, right? We had a chance to go and race Santiago's race, and we knew based on his experience as a race director that we were going to get a lot of support before and after the race in terms of transportation, in terms of with the lodging and the housing. And it just took off the table because getting ready for a race itself is a lot of work, packing your bag, your gear, remembering everything. And so to your credit, acknowledging a year in advance the fact that teams, whether they be local or whether they be international, are coming in, that there's that level of support. You don't need to source your own way from the airport to the race site and things like that. And clearly there's a resort involved, and you just got to get yourself there. Of course, getting bags there is always a challenge, but that's the airline's fault. That's not your fault. And someone always has something left behind. But getting there lets you get your head in the game to go and have the race that you want them to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the focus. I said every time we have a call meeting, remove the barriers to entry. We want the people to get to the event. The event is the challenge. We want people to get to their flight, to get home. And that's whether it's an international team, a South African team, whatever. We want to make sure that you can get there and make it as simple as possible. That's the focus, I mean, we've gone so far to make sure that it's as easy. It's a nice, safe, happy event. We've even got rid of the crocodile, I think.
Maybe. We'll see. It's a whole year.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, just a point from me, sorry, on the resort, which is quite nice about the resort. It's 6 sleeper rooms, or chalets. So for teams to bring so you essentially pay for the chalet, and we've negotiated such good rates for the teams, and that you can, if you bring a media person, that you don't need to pay extra for that person. You can actually bring 2 extra people, and they just go into the unit. It's self-catering unit, so you can eat at the restaurant, you can stay in your room, make food there. And I think for us, that has always been a problem. Like, we're going to a race now where we need to make sure that all extra preparations or bookings is done for our media person. Damon's dad is also joining. So now it's okay, we need another booking. Where with this is the room is big enough to allow extra capacity for the team. And I know Heidi and Stephan has always punted, bring media. And obviously we would like the same. But you want to make it as easy as possible for that media person to stay, to have a bed to sleep and to have food.
Keep it simple, exactly.
And alongside that too, and because of the distance you have to travel and length your way, very often racers will bring along other family members, and they'll tack some time on before and after. Right. And I'm sure in that region there's other things to do. There's trips to go on, there's places to go explore. Like, it's a gorgeous part of the country.
Oh, there's amazing stuff, people, anybody who wants to come with their family, either that resort or there are other resorts around it. I mean, there's a place just up the road called Cavern, that's in South Africa. It's a famous resort where you go, you drop your kids off, kids have a great time. There's walks, there's waterfalls, there's swimming, there's ropes to go and climb, there is mountain biking, you name it. There's huge hikes into the Berg that you can go and do. There's hot air ballooning. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So there's huge. It's a wonderful spot. And I think specifically the international teams, we want them to come out and experience it. Give us a shout, and we'll say, these are the people you can contact. We will put you in touch with other trips you can do. There is a bit we're talking about at the moment, and we've learned that seeing our friends in Morocco are doing it. They're putting together what they call a companion tour. So if your companions come along, this tour company will ferry those companions to the different transitions, provide accommodation, provide food and bits and pieces. So you can follow your husband, your wife, your significant other, your friends, and see them on the race, but still have the comfort and not have to worry about that. So we're looking into that at the moment. So that's something to keep an eye on. Again, more people out, come and have a look. It'll be fantastic in that sense.
Yeah, it's great. I love how you with Morocco coming back to a Raid bin Botch and having that happen. I love how race directors will see what other race directors are doing, and then will incorporate it into their own races themselves, and that's how the sport kind of keeps flowing along. Not to as we begin to wrap up here at the end of our time, I do want to come back to the idea that the racers to race directors, and you're still going to be racers. So what races are you looking at going into this year and next year? Like, where will your own racing career take you? Or is Africa taking over all your time and attention? What are the truffle hunters doing?
Never.
Sometimes you've got to keep racing. So yeah, no, so we're booked up now for the next 2-3 years at least. So we've got, as you said, we've got Raid Bambanche, pronunciation.
I pronounce it different every single time. I'll figure it out eventually.
So we're going to Morocco. So that's a couple of weeks away. So we're going there with our World Champs team, which will be good fun. And then I think Franco and the team are doing the Ratel in, is it June, July? I can't remember.
4 to 14 July. So that's hosted by Robert Lebrun, and it's done in the Richtersveld. So it's another. For me, it'll be great because I'm going to a desert to go race in another desert. Where last year I raced in the desert to go to France. Was it the other way around? It was bad.
Good preparation.
Yeah.
This year it's better preparation.
Well, but by the time this comes out, listeners can go back. I had Robert on. I recorded a few weeks ago with him, and that'll be coming out. That's our next episode coming out. It's a weird little time warp. This episode will come out. If you go backwards, everybody, you can find the episode with Robert that came out. So he did a great job. And that race looks like to be a lot of fun. He loves the sport. He really enjoys putting the race on.
He's a really good proponent of the sport.
Morocco, the hotel, which by the way is named after a honey badger. It's a great name for a race. Yeah. By the way, good job.
Ratel. And then definitely. I said earlier, if people go back to the races they know, there's allegiance. We'll go back to France. I mean, I don't know why I keep going back to France. I haven't. I feel like I should have learned the first time and then the second time. But Pascal and the team, they put on, wow, what a race. So Road in France World Champs next year is 110% on the plan. And then beyond that, we'll see. I mean, there's so many races. I'll just say, Franco, we're going here, and there it is. I think we'd love to go to Canada this year. It was definitely on the list of let's go to Canada. We got to go, and then Expedition Africa came up, and we've actually got to do some planning for that. So life gets in the way, but that's important.
Yeah. So sometimes there's scheduling conflicts you just can't work around.
And then I've got. I compete quite a lot up here in the UK and the European series. So I did the Kong Winter in January, put on by Lars Bukkerhaven and Danish Adventure Racing Union. That's a fantastic race director, great guy to learn from.
Lars does a good job. He loves the sport.
Absolutely. Yeah,
we've had him on the show before. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
And then beyond that, Franco has to organize more races in the next 2 years. So he's busy doing race directing all the other races. So
Franco, I want to give you the last word as we close out here. Talk a bit about final thoughts you want to leave us with. What do you want to leave the listener with?
Yeah, I think from a race director point of view, everyone in their own country must do their part. I think us in South Africa as Expedition Africa, we've got 13 races this year, trying to build a community again after COVID. We have found that the numbers have dwindled a bit, and we're trying our best to revive those numbers by putting up from 10-kilometer races. And it sounds crazy, but 10K races, people love it. Sometimes that outweighs our 25-kilometer races. So we call that a sprint series to our 250-kilometer races, which are a 48-hour race. And we're just trying to do our bit down here to grow the love for the sport. It's been such an integral part of our life, and we now have the clay in our hands, and we can mold adventure racing in Africa to the way we want. We've got 4 other race directors within South Africa, which is doing their part as well. Unfortunately for me, I do have a day job, so I can't be doing this full time. But without their races, there won't be many longer races. So I think if everyone in their country, all the race directors can start putting up smaller races, get people back into it. And that, as Damon mentioned earlier, the calendar is so full that we can actually grow the pool of adventure races. Yeah. That will warm my heart. If we can get to a race on a 500-kilometer race or a bigger race, and there's constantly 40 teams there, because it's actually so nice to compete against other people. It's not nice when you're on the course and you never see anyone. You might have found it as well. Like, we always find ourselves like jottling with the team back and forth. And at one point, like, okay, guys, can we just stay together for a bit? We don't need to race each other. And as you said, then it's just nice to chat to someone else, but grow the pool of adventure racers, grow the love for the game, and put everything you've got into it. It's time consuming, it's energy sapping, but at the end of the day, if a racer comes to me afterwards, like, Franco, that was epic. Thanks so much. Like, I mean, that and it just gave me goosebumps now. For me, that is what I want afterwards. And it's for me such a heartbreak if someone comes after a race and says, oh, that was horrible. I haven't had that, thank goodness. But 99 people can say it was great. If that one person says it was bad, I would rethink my whole life choices. So that is my goal, to make a race, and Damon's goal as well, to make a race, whether it's the small ones or the big ones, that people want to come back to, that they enjoy coming to our race. And that's been the legacy of Expedition Africa, and that's why in our promo video, so the legend continues. We want to make good on the groundwork that the Millers did for the past 15 years in the country, and we've got big shoes to fill, but we are up for the challenge. We'll make it better. We'll make it better, and I know Heidi will listen to this, and she'll probably give her blessing as well to say, take it and run with it. We've picked up a business that is running, and if we don't make it bigger and better, we would have failed ourselves. So it's in our hands, and we're going to make it absolutely spectacular for the next, I want to say, let's call it 10 years, and we'll reassess after that.
There you have it, folks. Another episode of The Dark Zone, number 136. Thank you to everybody from Expedition Africa for coming on to the show. Always a good time, always a good listen. Check those show notes for all those links. We're delighted that you chose to join us. Hope your racing is going well, as it is Northern Hemisphere summer, July 2025, and the races are just rolling around and going on, and people are having a great time. So thanks for spending your time here, and remember, you keep racing, we'll keep talking.